Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at something that never sits still, always changing, language.
Mm. Hmm.
But not just language in general, how social media is warping the way we use words.
It's true. Language has always evolved, but
Yeah.
things are different now.
Yeah, the internet has really kicked it into overdrive. Like imagine if you learned some new slang a
Yeah.
few months ago and it's already like totally ancient history.
Right. And what's really interesting to me about all of this is that it's not just about kids these days and their ever-changing slang.
Right.
It's about what's driving all of this change and what it means for all of us
Right.
as we try to communicate with each other.
Exactly. And we have some really wild stuff to talk about today. We'll cover a word so trendy that even teenagers are already sick of it.
Oh, wow.
We'll see how algorithms are actually driving linguistic innovation
Yeah.
and talk about why some words just feel so awkward to say.
Yeah.
And we'll even touch on whether AI could bring dying languages back to life. And should it?
Big questions.
Big questions.
So to kick things off, think about Riz.
Riz, yeah.
Oxford Word of the Year. Right. It was everywhere, but now even teenagers are moving on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Rizzler is the new
Wow.
hotness. I mean, it's crazy how fast things change.
Yeah, it really is. It's like trying to hold on to a fish
Yeah.
that's just wriggling out of your hands. But why is everything moving so fast? Is it just that the internet makes everything faster?
It's definitely a big part of it. Social media with these platforms has created this global network,
Yeah.
and it's all interconnected. So a new word, a phrase, whatever, it can appear anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And in a blink of an eye, it spreads everywhere.
Of a wildfire.
Like wildfire. Exactly. And it's all fueled by likes, shares, retweets, all that stuff.
You know, it reminds me of when I try to use slang with my own kids.
Oh, yeah.
It is just instant embarrassment.
Oh.
I try so hard to be cool, and it backfires every time.
It's funny because that actually gets to the core of why we use slang in the first place.
Huh.
It's not just about being trendy. It's about belonging to a group,
Right.
about sending a signal that you're in the know
Yeah.
with a certain community. And once people outside of that group start using it,
Uh-huh.
it loses its appeal, its
Yeah.
exclusivity. Think
Yes.
back to when you were younger, right? You had your own special way of talking with your friends?
Oh, absolutely.
It was like our own code?
It was special. Yeah.
Yeah, like a secret code, a way of connecting with your tribe. And you're right, as soon as my parents started using it, it was over.
The magic is gone. Yeah.
The magic was gone.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how language can be both a barrier
Yes.
and like this bonding agent at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's not just about slang either. The internet is actually affecting how we say words
Oh, interesting.
and even how we structure our grammar. Like, have you noticed uptalk?
Up talk,
That tendency to end sentences with a rising intonation.
oh yeah. It's everywhere online.
I swear I catch myself doing it, especially when I'm recording videos. It's
Yeah.
like my voice wants to sound more exciting, attention grabbing.
Exactly. And in a world where everything is competing for attention online,
Yeah.
that rising intonation makes you sound more enthusiastic, more engaging.
We're being like subtly influenced by algorithms, even in the way we speak.
It's
That's kind of creepy, but also kind of amazing at the same time.
both. It's both.
It's like the internet is rewiring our brains
Yeah.
one inflection at a time.
Yeah, and it really shows you how powerful the digital world is in shaping how we communicate. Not just what we say, but how we say it.
Totally. And speaking of shaping, it's really interesting to see where a lot of these new words and phrases are coming from.
Mm.
It seems like a lot of the trendy stuff we hear today has roots in Black, Latino, and LGBTQ plus online communities.
Yeah, it's like these communities are the trendsetters, influencing the mainstream in really cool ways.
Absolutely. And it shows how much influence these communities have online. Like the internet has given them this platform to express themselves,
Yeah,
to share their culture, and to really shape language in a broader way.
exactly.
Take the word skibidi, for example.
Ski Okay.
It's everywhere online, but its origins are like super mysterious. It seems like it just bubbles up from the depths of the internet,
Right.
and now everybody is saying it, even if they don't really know what it means.
It's a perfect example of how language evolves in ways that don't always make sense.
Right.
Skibidi has gone viral even though its meaning is pretty vague. It's
Oh.
like a big inside joke online, something that connects people across cultures and countries.
Yeah, like a digital age version of telephone where the message gets all jumbled up along the way.
Exactly.
But
And-
what matters is that you're sharing something new and exciting. But doesn't this make you a little bit nervous too?
Mm,
I mean, with English being so dominant online, what happens to all the other languages?
that's a real concern. We've talked about linguicide,
Yeah.
the death of languages, and how the dominance of English online can be a threat
Uh-huh.
to languages that aren't spoken as widely. It's a delicate balance,
Right.
and we need to think about the consequences of what we do online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the good news is that technology can also help bring languages back to life.
That's right. That's right.
There are inspiring cases like the Maori language in New Zealand.
Right.
It was almost extinct, but now it's being spoken more than ever, thanks in part to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
They have these online platforms for learning the language. They use Maori on social media,
Yeah.
and they even use it in popular online games.
It's fantastic.
It's amazing. It shows that the internet can be a powerful force for protecting languages,
Yeah,
not just putting them in danger. Like it's a double-edged sword.
exactly.
It can hurt or it can heal depending on how we use it.
It all depends on how we use it, exactly. The important thing is that technology isn't good or bad for language in itself.
Right.
It's a tool, and how we use that tool will determine whether it helps languages thrive or disappear. We have to think carefully about how we interact online
Yeah.
and use technology to make sure that everybody's languages and cultures
Yeah.
are respected and included.
Well said. So we have all these new words, all these changes in pronunciation, languages fighting to survive. It makes me wonder, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think about AI and the role it's going to play in all of this.
Right.
It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new era in language,
Mhm.
with AI leading the way.
It is, yeah. AI is the big unknown in all of this. It has the power to both help and hinder the way language develops. On the one hand, it can be amazing for preserving languages that are in danger by giving people new ways to learn and keep those languages alive.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But there are also some risks, right?
Of course. It's like giving someone a powerful tool without teaching them how to use it properly.
Right.
There's a danger of AI hallucinating. Yeah, basically making up stuff, creating information that's not accurate, and even potentially messing up languages that already exist.
That's kind of scary.
It is a bit.
And then there's the whole question of creativity. What happens to human expression in a world where AI can write poems, compose songs, even imitate how we talk?
It's a big question. What happens to human creativity
Right.
when we have machines that can do so much?
It's kind of unsettling. It's like those sci-fi movies where robots become so smart, they take over the world.
Yeah, it's a scenario we need to think about seriously. The decisions we make now about how we create and use AI will have a huge impact on what happens to language in the future.
Right.
It's up to us to make sure that AI is a force for good, a tool that helps us protect and preserve language, not something that destroys it.
It's a pretty deep thought to leave our listeners with,
It is. It is.
but it's something we all need to think about. The way language changes tells us a lot about how we're evolving as humans,
Mm-hmm.
and the choices we make today will determine where language goes from here.
Absolutely. And as we keep going on this deep dive, I really encourage you, our listeners, to think about the language you encounter online.
Yes.
Look at where it comes from, what effect it has, and think about the subtle ways it can change how we think and talk.
Great advice. We'll be back soon to continue our discussion on how social media is shaping language, and we'll dive deeper into AI and its role in all of this.
Definitely.
So stick around, we're just getting started.
You know, it's amazing how even small changes in how we pronounce words can show these big cultural shifts that are happening online. It's like language is this sensitive instrument
Yeah,
picking up on these tiny tremors of change.
it's true. I've noticed it in my own accent.
Really?
Yeah, there are words that I used to say with a strong British accent that are starting to sound a bit more, well, American. It's like I'm picking up these influences without even realizing it.
It's a common thing, actually. Linguists have been studying this for a while now. The global reach of American media,
Yeah.
especially movies and music, has had a huge impact on how people pronounce words all over the world.
Makes sense. We're constantly hearing American accents on TV and films, online. It's bound to rub off on us.
Definitely. And it's not just accents. Grammar is changing, too.
Oh, interesting.
Because of the digital age, these changes happen more slowly and they're more subtle,
Yeah.
but they're definitely happening.
Can you give me an example? What kind of grammatical shifts are we seeing?
Well, one trend that's really taken off online is verbing, turning nouns into verbs. You take a thing, a noun, and make it into an action, a verb.
Oh, I get it. Like to Google something?
Exactly.
I do that all the time. It's become so common we don't even think about it as being unusual.
Exactly. To Google, to friend someone on social media, even to podcasts like we're doing now.
Yeah?
Those are all examples of verbing. It's how language is adapting to the new ways we interact in this digital world.
It's like language is racing to catch up with technology,
Mm.
always coming up with new ways to describe our online lives.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty clever when you think about it.
It is. Language is incredibly flexible. Verbing just shows how it can change to keep up with the needs of the people who use it.
Right.
But sometimes I wonder if all this change, all this focus on new trends, means we're losing sight of languages that have a long history and a rich culture.
Yeah, I see what you mean. We've talked about how languages can die out and how English being so strong online can be a threat to smaller languages.
Right. It's like a delicate ecosystem.
Right,
We need to be careful about the impact we're having.
for sure. But you were saying earlier that technology can be a good thing for languages too, right?
Absolutely. We've seen how it can help revitalize languages that are struggling, like the Maori language in New Zealand.
Right, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a great example of how the internet can be used to support languages. It really can be a force for good,
Yeah.
and it shows that it's not all bad news.
So it's like a double-edged sword then. It can do damage, but it
Okay.
can also do a lot of good.
Exactly. The key is to be aware of the choices we make as individuals and as a society.
Right.
We can choose to support programs that help people learn languages. We can engage with different cultures online.
Yeah.
And we can push for policies that protect languages that are at risk.
It really makes you realize that this whole conversation about language evolving is really about how we're evolving as people.
It is.
We're constantly adapting, changing, trying to understand the world around us. And language is the tool we use to do all of that.
That's a great point. Language is a reflection of our shared thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
our hopes and fears, our dreams. And as we try to navigate this rapidly changing world,
Right.
it's more important than ever to think about how we use language and how it affects ourselves and everyone around us.
And speaking of change and impact, we can't avoid talking about the big one, artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
AI is everywhere these days, and it's going to have a massive impact on language in the future. What do you think about the potential upsides and downsides of AI when it comes to language? AI is definitely a game changer in the language world. It has the potential to revolutionize how we learn, translate, and preserve languages. Just imagine having AI tools that can help you become fluent in a new language,
Yeah.
translate complicated texts accurately,
Right.
or even document and revive languages that are on the verge of extinction.
That's amazing. It's like having a personal tutor and a translator all rolled into one.
Exactly. But we also have to be aware of the potential downsides. One concern is that AI might start hallucinating, which means generating information that's incorrect.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Or even creating entirely new languages that lack the depth and complexity of human language.
Yeah, that is a bit scary. It's like opening a can of worms, unleashing all these new words and phrases that we don't really understand or have control over.
That's a valid concern, and we need to be cautious. Another risk is that AI could be used for harmful purposes.
Right.
Things like spreading propaganda, creating fake news,
Oh, wow.
or even manipulating people's opinions.
It's almost like a language arms race.
It is.
AI being used to make language more powerful, but also to turn it into a weapon.
Yeah.
That's a pretty unsettling thought.
It is, and it highlights why we need to have ethical guidelines for how we develop and use AI, especially when it comes to language. We need to make sure that AI is serving us,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
So what can we as individuals do to navigate this complex world of AI and language? It feels like we're standing on the edge of a new era, and it's kind of overwhelming.
The key is to stay informed, to be critical of the information we come across online,
Right.
and to use AI tools responsibly. Remember, AI is just a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It all comes down to our choices.
That's a powerful thought. We have this responsibility to guide the future of language, making sure it benefits humanity and preserves the richness and diversity of how we express ourselves. It's not just about keeping up with trends, it's about understanding the forces at play and making conscious decisions about how we use language in the digital age.
Absolutely. And as we continue exploring this evolution of language, I want to invite all of you listening to join us on this journey. Pay attention to the language you see online. Ask questions, challenge assumptions,
Yes.
and above all, don't be afraid to use your own voice to shape the future of language.
That's a great message. We'll be back soon for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the ethical and philosophical questions around language evolution in the age of AI.
It's going to be fascinating.
So stay tuned because this conversation is just getting started. Welcome back to our deep dive into how language is changing in this crazy world of social media. We've talked about a lot, from new words popping up everywhere to those little shifts in how we pronounce things, and even grammar rules bending. But there's one more thing I've been thinking about.
Oh, tell me.
Well, the internet connects us all over the world, but does it also make us all sound the same? Like, are we losing our individual voices online? Becoming a bit.basic?
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. It kind of gets to this tension between everyone being connected and still being unique. The internet makes it seem like we're all in this global village, right? Everyone watching the same stuff, sharing the same memes, even starting to talk in similar ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's this pressure to fit in online, to use the right slang or jargon. Like, if you don't, you're totally out of the loop.
It's like showing up to a party and everyone's wearing the same outfit.
Yeah.
You might blend in, but you don't really stand out.
But isn't that the cool thing about language? It lets us show who we are, our quirks, our own way of seeing the world.
Absolutely. And that's why we can't just try to blend in. We should embrace what makes our language unique, even if it's a little different or doesn't fit the mold.
So it's about finding that balance between making sure people understand you and still sounding like yourself. Like, how do you communicate well, but keep your own voice?
That's the big question. And it's not easy. You have to be aware of the situation you're in. Like, in professional settings, you want to be clear and use language everyone understands.
You wouldn't use TikTok slang in a research paper.
Exactly. But online, with friends, in casual conversations, it's okay to relax a bit, play with language, let your personality come through.
So read the room, know who you're talking to,
Mm-hmm.
and change your language to fit.
Mhm.
But in the end, be yourself.
Exactly. It takes practice to get good at that. Being willing to try new things, but also sticking to what feels right for you.
I think we've really dug deep into this whole topic, haven't we? We've seen how language is speeding up in this social media age.
Yeah.
New words, changes in how we say things, grammar rules going out the window.
And we've talked about the challenges of keeping languages alive, how
Yeah.
AI could change everything, and how important it is to find our own voice in this ever-changing online world.
It's been mind-blowing. And I have to say, I'm feeling a newfound appreciation for how powerful and complex language really is.
Me too. It reminds us that language is more than just words.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of who we are, both as individuals and as a society.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Language is alive. It's always changing. So be open to those changes, explore all the little details, and never be afraid to use your own voice to shape how language evolves.
Well said. Keep those conversations going, stay curious, and remember the world of words is full of endless possibilities.
Until next time, happy exploring.